What's going on, you guys? Welcome to The Script. I'm your host, Isaac Paul. Where do we begin? I feel like we've got so much to share. And it's going to be a pretty interesting episode. It's going to be a recap. But before we dive into that, I always like to, first and foremost, give a lot of love to blackdoctor.org, who we are partnering with. Now, if you are not familiar with blackdoctor.org, they are an organization that attempts to align healthcare practitioners with people of color, right? And a lot of times one of the things that we understand, especially inside of this space, if you ever find yourself in a space where you are searching for a healthcare practitioner, it's not that you have to have a person of color, right? But there are times where you may want someone that can really understand you on a more core level, right? And so that's what blackdoctor.org attempts to do. It attempts to align individuals with people of color that are healthcare practitioners, whether that be for, physical, mental, psychological, emotional, the whole, gamut. But then also they're a platform that goes beyond that. And really what we're talking about is just health in all the facets of what that can be. And so I really appreciated this partnership and having the opportunity to be able to broadcast through their channels as well. Now, what is The Script? The Script is the digital counterpart of the Tequila Tales. The Tequila Tales is a fully engaging discussion on love and relationships. And, what we are not is a panel discussion. I always have to say that. And the reason why I say that is because no shade to panels. I think panels are dope. But there are a lot of times when you're, watching a panel, and in most cases, you're kind of watching what other people are thinking. You're watching what either the experts or what the influencers' opinions or thoughts are on any particular topic. But with the Tequila Tales, our motto is, with love, we all have a story to share. And so my goal is to always get those authentic stories from the very people that participate in the events that we host. Now, we've been doing The Script now for a little over a year, right? And so, each episode is very different, right? Sometimes I may have guests. I may even have a guest that pops in tonight, because tonight is going to be a recap episode where we're really going to dive into some of the content that we've gathered from our last live show, which was titled Elevation. Right. So elevation. And you know what? I'm actually going to dive into that because I don't know if everybody really understood why we were calling this particular event Elevation. Because, when you think on it off the top, it very well could have sounded like, yeah, we on some new stuff, right? Or like, yeah, it's time to elevate. Sometimes when people talk about they elevate, they leaving people behind. It always comes with a bit of kind of hoity-toityness. And that really wasn't what our goal was. So full transparency, we've moved locations. So for the last 2 years, we were hosting our live shows at a Black-owned art gallery / event space by the name of Onyx Art Gallery. and we had an incredible relationship with them. But as with all things, things change, things evolve, things end, and they decided to close the gallery. Right around the time that this was happening, I was in communications with the owners of Arizona Center. So, for those of you all that are watching this, if you're not in the Phoenix area, you may not be aware of what the Arizona Center is, but it is kind of like a shopping center slash plaza that sits right in the heart of downtown. And, it really has a lot of history. It has a long-standing history with Phoenicians, because it was one of like the cool spots where people would go. I would say probably about like 20, 30 years ago, right? But like with all things, like I said, things change. And as a lot of growth started to happen in this area, you started to see a lot of other shopping centers and a lot of other kind of hot spots that would develop all around the surrounding areas of Phoenix. And so as a result, there you you saw Arizona Center kind of take a slide a little bit. But in the recent years, they're kind of in a bit of a renaissance, right? They got a lot of exciting stuff that's happening in this area. So when I was presented with the opportunity to host the Tequila Tales there, it seemed a little, what's the word I want to use? It seemed like a gargantuan task just because of the size and the scope of this particular vicinity. Plus, I was so in love with the relationship that I had with Onyx that I was kind of on the fence. But, the universe has a way of just pushing you in a direction of where it wants you to go. And so through fate, not only did this end up being a wise decision, but Onyx Art Gallery took this journey with us, right? And so what's kind of dope is that we have this new space that Onyx Art Gallery fully staged for us. And we are on the fourth floor overlooking the grotto area, right? So I was like, anybody that knows anything about Tequila Tales, I always try to make the topics correlate with something current that's happening either within our lives or within the culture, And so with this one, because we're on the fourth floor, and if you get a look of this area, this grotto area, I'll share some pictures later. It's some really sexy shit. Okay. So, I was thinking, all right, we'll make it a bit of a triple entendre, and we'll make the topic elevation, right? Not only because we're elevated on like a larger, on a higher level, but just, what does it look like when you elevate to a new level, and what are some of the drawbacks that go along with that? So what I want to do first and foremost is I actually want to kind of read what the topic is, right? Because I think that sometimes most people, they just come to Tequila Tales because they know it's going to be a good time. They don't always read these topics, right? And I put a lot of effort into these topics, okay? Like I really put my foot into this one. So I'm gonna go ahead and read what the topic is, because while we'll not only be going through some of the commentary and, kind of walk you through some of the highlights of the evening, I like to pose some of these questions to anyone that's watching, right? So one of the things that I also want to share, as I already see we got some people that are commenting in, which I love this, I want you all to know that regardless of where you are watching this from, we are streaming in 5 different locations, 2 different YouTube accounts and 3 different Facebook accounts. So even if you are the only one in that particular room, I want you to feel confident that if you make a comment, I'll not only be able to share it, but I'll be able to bring it right up on the screen, right? And so we can interact with one another. Hell, if you are watching it and you like, you know what? I want to hop on and have a conversation with you. Let me know. I'll throw the link right here in the chat and I can bring you up. See, that's the dope part about having a live show. When you do a live show, I get a good opportunity to interact with you all in real time. So as much as I want to record it, edit it, and then just post it out, there's something about this live space that's kind of fun, right? Because, the thing with Tequila Tales, like I said, with love, we all have a story to share. And so my goal is not just to do all the talking, it's to interact, it's to actually have a conversation. So at any point, if you see something and it, conjures some thoughts, or, you disagree, or you want to exchange, feel free to put it right there in the chat. And like I said, if you want me to bring you to the stage, let me know. I can very easily drop you all a little link. Now I know it's kind of late, so some of y'all might not be presentable or whatever. So, I understand that. No pressure. I've switched the times if you all haven't recognized, right? Like we're on late night time, but look at this. See, look, even Casey's watching. See, she's watching from Arizona. What's going on, Casey? But yeah, so no, man, we're gonna go ahead and dive right into it. But like I said, I want to first and foremost read what the topic is about, right? Because I feel like y'all not really giving this the credit that it deserves. But nonetheless, elevation. The Tequila Tales reaches new heights. So life rarely unfolds according to plan. Just when we think we found our footing, change arrives. Sometimes as a gentle nudge, other times as a seismic shift. The true measure of our journey isn't found in stability, but in how we respond when the ground beneath us transforms. The Tequila Tales has embraced this evolution, moving to a stunning new space that reflects our continuing growth. Perched on the fourth floor of the Arizona Center, our new home offers not just a change in scenery, but a change in perspective, one that reminds us how differently the world appears when viewed from above. This month, we invite you to explore our own experiences of elevation, those unexpected moments when life lifts you higher than you plan to go. Whether through opportunity, challenge, or chance, these elevations reshape our view of ourselves and our relationships. When has achieving a new level in life forced you to reassess which relationships deserve to continue the journey? Is the view always better from above, or do we sometimes lose sight of important things when we ascend too quickly? And what becomes visible from an elevated perspective that remains hidden on the ground? So I always try to center the conversation around three main points. But in most cases, I'm also fielding questions from the audience. I allow them to type in anonymous questions. And so sometimes we just let the dog off the leash, right? Like sometimes the conversation just goes into a completely different direction. And if that's what the room wants, then that's what I give the room, right? So everything that we are going to address tonight really does deal with elevation, but it's not just about like I said, it's not about flossing, right? It's not about, oh, I've leveled up because I got a new promotion at the job. Sometimes elevating could be something mental, it could be something spiritual, it could be something financial, it could be something emotional, right? And when you think about what it takes to elevate, this wasn't a conversation that was steeped in just celebrating ourselves. But what you'll see from these comments is a lot of times it got surprisingly heavy and poignant at times. And I remember I was talking to my wife, and she kind of felt some kind of way at first because she was like, man, I was kind of surprised that it got as deep as it did. But I was like, nah, when you think about conversations like elevation, it's not all celebration, right? Because when you elevate, everybody doesn't always take that journey with you, and so what does that look like? What does that look like when you are trying to go to another step, and those people that you had close relationships with aren't moving at the same speed, or if they just vibrate at a different frequency, not a lower frequency, but just a different frequency, right? And so there are times where you kind of lose friendships. And I feel like a lot of that is happening nowadays, even just what we see happening inside of the political landscape, depending upon what side of the fence you chose to sit on, this particular election had much broader consequences than some of the past elections. I can remember when it was like Clinton against Bob Dole, you probably didn't see families falling out because someone voted Republican or someone voted Democrat. But this go round, because there's so much that was tied to this particular election and the elements that decided people's choices, you see a lot of people that are falling out, and so that to me is what it looks like when you want to move forward, when you recognize that someone that you care about is on a different type of wavelength than you are, right? And like, what does that look like moving forward? So let's go ahead and dive right into some of these comments. And I thought that this one was actually a rather interesting one to start.
And 27-year best friend, but through the last 8 years, you could see it. I knew it. I felt it. It was preached to me. It was prophesized to me. And I still held on for the longest time until I just didn't. Just one day I was like, this is just it. And everything kind of fell into that place. And now she wants that friendship, that relationship back. And she texts me today, and you know, that old me says, respond back. But the me now didn't. I was like, I don't want to. I don't wish anything ill on you. I don't have anything left in me for it. So you quietly elevate, you let it go, and you don't know it until you know it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Get another.
So that was one that I did find to be interesting. And, full transparency, she was probably talking about politics just then, when she says the last 8 years. Well, what's been going on the last 8 years, right? She's talking like 2016. And we know what happened in 2016. So it's like, even when we're not talking about it, sometimes we can still address some of these points. And so, that was one of the things that I did appreciate with everyone was their willingness to be transparent, their willingness to share, their truth with this particular event. Because of the fact that we're at a new location, there's always a little bit of apprehension about trying the new venue. Like the ad that I ran, by far got the best response of any ad that I've ever run. But I could tell the disparity between the excitement from the ad and how many people were buying tickets, which we still did good. But I was like, oh, this is going to be the biggest event that we've ever done. But people hesitated, right? And I don't know if they hesitated just because of the uncertainty of just what exists right now inside of just our day-to-day lives and people's concerns about just what the future looks like. Sometimes when things are a little shaky, especially financially or when it comes to jobs, discretionary spending is the first thing that we pull back, right? So, that vacation that you have been planning, you'll pull that back before you pull back paying bills, right? So, you kind of understand that. But at the same time, though, I was very surprised because we had like 70, almost 80% new people in the room. Like we still had some of our loyals that came through that really just rock with us, but it was a lot of new people. And so anytime you get a room full of new people, it's always interesting to see how willingly they will share, and so her just sharing something, man, and just being transparent about the fact that she literally just got a phone call from one of her girlfriends earlier that day, and just wasn't in the mood to talk. And I was like, yeah, I kind of know what that feels like, and I don't know if you guys have ever experienced that, but I have, right? Where, you just kind of find yourself at odds with some people that you were once very close with. And sometimes it may not even just be about either the politics or about any particular issue. It just may be that something breaks your pattern, right? Like if you, like kind of when someone moves away, that to me is always one of the biggest tests of a relationship is, can you withstand the distance? Can you all adjust the way that you all communicate in a way that still provides substance and still provides value to you all's world? I feel like COVID did that to a lot of people, right? Like some people's relationships were based on, we go out and we kick it. We like to go out and party and do day parties or brunches and just whatever. And I'm talking about like intimate relationships. And then all of a sudden, all of that stuff gets shut down. And it's like, okay, now we just are sitting in this living room dealing with one another, right? We don't like the same shows. We have a lot of very different ways that we communicate in, and we are different people. But in these particular areas, because our life was built around this particular, chassis, it made sense. But what happens when life adjusts and it forces you to accommodate something different? Can you withstand that? Can you all evolve into this new space and still find value in you all's interaction? So sometimes, like, someone gets a promotion, someone used to have nights off, but now they work nights, or they used to have weekends off and now they work. It's amazing how the minutia sometimes can end up being the thing that breaks up a relationship. You know what I'm saying? And so, when she shared that, I was like, man, that's pretty interesting and kind of intuitive. Here was a comment, and you'll hear the leading question coming into this next comment. But, one of the things that always fascinates me is, like I said a moment ago, man, just people's willingness to be very transparent and almost borderline emotional. How you can almost have an emotional moment when you're sharing something that's very real and very core to who you are.
It doesn't always announce itself, but sometimes it happens so quietly, even the people closest to us don't realize it's happening until the distance is undeniable. So now we're going to talk about love, loyalty, and leveling up, right? When you got to your new level, who did you hope would be proud of you and they weren't? Oh, yeah, it's going to get deep up in here. That's why I'm like, if y'all ain't got a drink yet, okay? This ain't therapy, but we are exercising the demons, right? How many of y'all have had someone that you were expecting, was supposed to be excited about something that you were experiencing, and you were a little dismayed by the fact that they weren't? They were a little dismissive.
Well, for me, when I started my business, so I didn't want to tell everybody at first because I wanted to, get established and get my grand opening going on. But I told my mom. She was the first person I told. I was like, maybe I shouldn't tell her because I don't want her to jinx it, because you know how sometimes you'll tell somebody what you're doing and you're like, oh my God, everything's falling apart, So I was like, Mom, I'm going to start my massage business finally. And you're the first person I told. And she was like, yeah, I'm probably the first because you don't want nobody else to know if you fail. And I tremble a little bit because it's a little emotional for me, but it has happened to many entrepreneurs. Like, the people that you love the most are the most unsupportive of you. But I know she meant well, and I'm going to stay positive about that. And when I finally become successful with my spa, I'm going to do something nice for my mom. I love my mom, but I think because she doesn't have like that entrepreneurial spirit like I do, so I can see there might be a little bit of jealousy. A lot of people don't realize sometimes people don't want you to be as successful as them or better than them. So they'll always throw those little shots at you sometimes, and I've always made it a habit to try to be better than my mom, because I just reconciled with my daughter and she kind of like let me know as far as parenting how I was, and I was like, you know what, I'm not going to be defensive. I'm not going to argue with her. I'm just going to take it, because I told her, I was like, it's very possible that I did what you think I did to you at the time because I didn't have any support, And so I'm trying to break that cycle with my daughter and she told me I was a supportive. I was like, no, dude, that's some type of generational curse you got on you that we're trying to break. I was like, I've always been supportive of you, sweetie, so I'm just trying to break those generational, curses in my family so we could be more supportive of each other. And like I said, I reconciled with my daughter. I'm in a good place. I'm starting my spa. I'll be open May 3rd. And so I'm really excited about that. Whether my mom is excited or not, I'm excited about it.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Okay. Listen, and I hope her all the success, right? You can hear her voice trembling, and she was even transparent about that, right? Because that happens at times, right? Where you've been working, and so even though I won't play all the clips as it relates to that, what's going on, Gerard? Even though I won't play all the clips as it relates to that particular thread of the conversation, that was kind of an angle that we explored where it was almost like, um, what should your expectation be as it relates to your friends? And so if you're watching this, I'm curious to even just know, your feedback. If you're in a position to comment, because I know some of us are watching it on YouTube and we're watching it on our television. So you can't always uh text very easily. But if you are watching it and you can text, I'm curious to know about that. Like how do you feel about that? How do you feel about um what's your level of expectation as it relates to your friends celebrating your wins? Do you expect it? Have you ever been in a situation where you were a little disappointed that someone that you thought was going to be very celebratory or very happy for you, and they're either nonchalant or, dare I say, throwing a little shade, right? Because we know when that occurs and we know how that looks. I shared a story. I didn't go into the specifics, but I remember there was one time where there was a project that I had been working on for a very long time, and very few people knew how important it was to me, how core it was to just not only who I was, but how much I sacrificed to even get to this space. And there was one woman in particular who not only was aware of it, she used to hold positions where she was kind of the plug, right? She was kind of the plug where she could have easily introduced me to some people that could have furthered my ambition. In the early stages, I wanted to respect the friendship that we had. So I didn't want to twist the arm or ask her to do it, right? Because I'm like, all right, if you see the work and you hear the work and it doesn't compel you to want to share it, then I'll just take that as a sign, right? So my whole thing was I just get dope enough until she acknowledges it, right? I'm not going to ask, even though you are right there in the position and you are normally the person who is the catalyst of putting people on back during this period, right? So, like, let's fast forward, a couple years or whatever. Back in Chicago, still in this artistic endeavor, and I have an album release party, and I did something real unique where, like, I built an entire website around this album, and I let people listen to it so that they can make comments anonymously, and I let them know, you all, I will not know. So if you think it's trash, give it a 3. Right? If you think it's trash, give it a 3. You know what I'm saying? And I just played the ones that I wanted. Now, I ain't gonna lie, I had some heat on there. All right, I play that shit right now. Okay, it was some heat. Okay, matter of fact, one of the track. Matter of fact, the intro track to the script and the outro track now are 2 instrumentals, right? So if you vibing at all with any of those beats, both of them I created, and the songs that attached to them was dope. Okay, so not only does she give me 10s on this list, she hops on Facebook, she gives me all of these glowing reviews. And so, I mean, to the point where at first I'm like, all right, is she just gassing me? No, the next day she's like, no, Ike, listen, I know you said you ain't got them engineered yet. No, I want that song. Can you email me that song? I cannot get it out of my head. So I was like, all right, bet. So I went on ahead and emailed it to her. Probably about 5-6 months later, I do a video treatment for it, right? And the video treatment, I dug in deep. It was one of the best artistic things that I had done up to that point. So I gave her, we were texting. I said, hey, I want to show you something. It's the same song that she was going berserk about. You know what I'm saying? You know, she's like, oh yeah, we was going back and forth a little bit or whatever. I sent her the video. Now, when I sent this same video to my good friend Krishan, literally, she burst into tears in front of me when she saw it. Because not only did she think it was dope, but she was like, this is it, right? So now I'm showing this to my friend that's got these connects inside the industry, right? Push play, send it to her, ghost town, right? So I'm like, all right, I don't know how I should feel about this. You know what I'm saying? Should I ask back, hey, did you see it? I'm like, nah, maybe she's busy. I'm gonna give her a moment. 24 hours pass, 48 hours pass, 72 hours pass, a week passes. You know what I'm saying? About 2 weeks passes, I finally get, because I was like, I refuse. I refuse to be the person to be like, hey, did you see the thing? Because I'm just like, okay, we were going back and forth. I told you it was something I wanted you to see. I wanted your feedback on. I send it to you, and then all of a sudden you just go ghost town. So I'm like, I don't want to twist your arm, but like, what is happening? Because this is the weirdest behavior on the planet. 2 weeks later, I finally get an email from her, and it's her inviting me to some party or something that she's hosting and that she's doing. What? You know what I mean? So like it really stung. It really bothered me. And I remember a good friend of mine, actually one of my best friends, Omar, he told me then, he said, you know what, Ike, he said, it's not necessarily that she didn't want to see you successful, but it was that she probably had an issue with you getting there before she did, right? And so while that doesn't necessarily make it better, it at least helped me have some context, because I was flabbergasted. I'm just like, what? Like, and people's like, well, maybe she didn't like it. If she didn't like it, we have this kind of relationship where she could, if she didn't like it, she could have just been like, oh man, you know what? Good job. You know how we bullshit one another. If we just, you don't really love the outfit, but I don't want to just rip your whole soul out. Like, there's a way that you could have done that where you don't just leave me on read. You know what I'm saying? Like, leaving me on read, I knew it meant something different. And not to be arrogant, but there was another piece of me was like, was it that dope? Was it that dope where you couldn't even respond to a nigga? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not asking for all your connects. You could have just said you loved it and kept playing the nut roll and not push me along the path with the connects that you had. You wasn't even working for the company no more, but to just not say anything, and you know how this looked, you know what that project looked like. So, I share all of that to say that, like, I think sometimes when we get into these spaces, we don't know what's going on in the mind or in the heart of the individual that we are expecting those accolades from, right? And so I guess you got to get yourself into a space where you don't expect it, maybe, right? But I don't know. If you feel differently, let me know, right? Like, would you feel weird if a friend of yours wasn't celebrating something, or was I out of pocket for expecting it, right? Because maybe she didn't like it. Maybe you should just be sharing it absent the expectation. And my issue is showing up with expectation, and that is really what the problem was. I'm curious to know if you got feedback, let me know. But this was some feedback from someone after the woman made the comment that she just made a moment ago.
Touched on a topic, unfortunately, is really big in the Black community. You know what I mean? The crab pot theory, trying to hold each other down. I hate that it exists in our community, but let's be honest, it does, right? Because the reality is hating always comes from the bottom. Nobody doing better than you is going to hate on you. It's always the people that are not doing better than you, have no ambition, that are not going to grow, that are going to hate on you, and that's really sad, because we can do so much more if we work together and lift each other up, instead of worrying about, oh, he's going to make more money than me, or he's going to have a nicer car than me. So I've always said every relationship ain't meant to last your whole life. You know what I mean? Some people need to be cut off. If you're going up a mountain, if you look at a mountain, it's less space the higher up you go. There's a reason for that. Less people are going to be able to go up there with you. So if you want people to like you and be broke, go right ahead. Stay your ass down there with they broke asses. But if you want to level up, you just got to know you can't take everybody with you.
That's fair. I get it. And there are times where you have to acknowledge that you can't always take everybody with you, right? One of the questions that I asked later on that night, and I think we kind of deviated from it, but I was interested to get people's feedback, was whether or not you think you have a responsibility or you owe people something that were with you at your lowest point, right? Like when you elevate. So it's like we all down here and we kicking it, and you've had my back. We was grinding together. When you elevate, do you owe the individuals that were rocking with you when you had nothing, anything? Some people kind of felt like, nah, you don't. But there was some that kind of felt like, yeah, I kind of think you do. With me, I don't know if I would go as far as say I feel like I owe you something. Well, no, I take that back. Actually, yeah, I kind of do feel like I owe you something. And I feel like I owe a lot of people a lot of things. Now, it may not be fair to me, right? Because I know that inside of our relationship is a lot of value. I extend a lot of value to those individuals that I rock with, right? And we all have different love languages. So you may be providing me with something different than what I'm providing you with. And I think when we're searching for balance at times, we think that karma says, well, because I gave you this, you're supposed to give me that in exchange. And it's like, nah, if I'm giving you something of value, then you have to give me something of value. You know what I mean? It's almost like if you're dating a man and he's rich, while that gift that he gave you may be expensive, did it really cost him anything? You know what I'm saying? Like, was there any sacrifice that had to be made in order to get it to you? Just off of the strength that, he goes to the casino and blows thousands of dollars. So whoop-de-doo, he got you a bag. You know what I mean? Like, and not to downplay and not to say that it doesn't have any value, but you can't really put that at the same level as something like maybe the thing that's scarce for him is time, right? He's got all the money in the world. And so the thing that's scarce for him is time. And if that's the case, then him expending time on you actually means a lot more than him throwing you a gift, which is tantamount to a night at the casino, a light night. You know what I mean? Like not even where he just like lost 50,000 or whatever, but he, it was whatever. We was just, I blew $5,000 at the craps table, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, not saying that bag doesn't mean a lot to you because you don't have money, but him giving it to you really didn't mean a whole, like it wasn't asking of anything from him, And so I do think that those are one of the things that sometimes we have to consider when we're talking about like gift giving as well as love languages, right? And how we relate to one another. This was another exchange that came directly off of the last gentleman that was talking about crabs in a barrel that I thought was pretty interesting.
My grandmother was one of the most supportive people in my life. I went to ASU, got a degree in physics. She kind of didn't know what that meant. One day I show up at her house and she says, my remote control is broken. Can you fix it? And I'm like, maybe. So I looked at it. I couldn't fix it. I bought her another remote control, and she's like, "What'd you go to all that school for? You can't fix a remote control." Now here's the thing: is my grandmother would stab or shoot all of you if it meant saving my life or making, like, if it was right. She doesn't. I have no question that I was important to her. Her perspective on the difficulty and the work that I put in to get my degree just wasn't there. It doesn't mean she wasn't proud of me. It doesn't mean she didn't care about me. She just had a perspective like, I heard you got a degree in science stuff. This remote control seems science-y. And I just had maybe you could do some science to this remote control. Right? Also, speaking to the woman, I think she's gone, but she mentioned earlier, I also agree with her that I think having expectations for other people on how you should expect them to treat you in your triumphs is a trap you set for yourself. It's a trap. You want people to shoot up flyers and fireworks for something, but they may just not understand what it takes to be a surgeon or even a nurse or even a teacher or any of these things. And when they don't show up and sometimes in a way that you don't expect, it's not that they don't want to, they just may not know, right? It may just be a personal ignorance about what's happening and the work and the effort it takes to get to that point in your life.
Okay, that's solid. Listen, I appreciate all perspectives, and I do think that what it was that he said had a lot of value in terms of like not having the expectation. Now, I will admit, I did challenge him on the back end, and the reason why I challenged him is exactly what it was that I was saying earlier, right? Like that there are times where I've had to tell myself that, because I do acknowledge that when you have like that, all of us have different love languages. We all have different love languages, and it's not fair for me to expect you to be to me what I am to you. And I'm big on that. I honestly do not expect anyone to be for me what I am for most people. Now, there are occasions where I will have people that'll speak life into me, where I do have people that will say the exact thing that I needed them to say in that moment. And I'm so incredibly appreciative of it. And I know, okay, this was someone that was either sent or just could sense that I needed this. But in most cases, most of my friends, they provide a different kind of value to me, which to me, I think is commiserate with the value that I add to them, right? So it's an exchange. And that's what I was saying a moment ago, right? Like if I'm rich and I give you this, Oprah don't expect anybody to wow her with the amount of money that they spend on a gift. You know what I mean? Like most people that are in her world, she probably trumps financially. Doesn't mean that she doesn't want someone to spend anything on her, because she might appreciate just knowing that you put forth the effort. But you can't go band for band with Oprah, right? So I don't expect anybody to exhibit the same kind of quality in terms of like the insight, or just the wisdom sometimes that I may give them. And this isn't to pat myself on the back. I know the areas that I'm strong in. But I've got certain friends where I'm like, yo, that's the friend that helps me think out of the box, right? Or that's the friend that's great to go out socially with and, just totally put me in a present state of mind. I always enjoy being around them. So that is who I am. However, I do think that there is something that needs to be said as it relates to, just because other people may not have the same mindset that I have doesn't mean that I don't deserve to be celebrated, right? And it also does not mean that you are not aware that the thing that I've just did was worthy of celebration. Because if you are aware of it and you are consciously not acknowledging me, then that's for a reason. And that has to be, at the very least, if not addressed, at the very least, it has to be acknowledged. I cannot ignore the fact that you are going out of your way to not recognize this thing that I've really invested a lot of time in. I got a buddy, man, in a group chat of ours, man, me and some of my guys, and we just know that he needs attention, right? He's one of those types, right? He needs attention. He needs emotional reassurance in a way that can sometimes be nauseating. But when he actually does good, me and my other buddy that's in the group chat, man, we just acquiesce. Like, as much as we might be like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, all right, bro, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna make you feel seen, because you did just do something good, right? So even if I'm not in that headspace, even if you're being a little, annoying with this, right? Like the value overall that you add makes me want to feed into you, and give you what it is that I know you desire in this moment, if I think that you're worthy, right? So I do think that there are moments where, as friends, we need to show up. You know what I'm saying? And so that's why I kind of push back on what it was that he said, because I'm like, okay, that's your grandmama. We all give our grandmamas the pass. You know what I'm saying? But if this is somebody you hanging with, you're going out, you having drinks, you know what I'm saying? They there to support you when you fall down, right? So if when I fall down, if when I'm at my lowest, you know how to pick me up, you know how to support me, then how is it that you can support me when I've fallen down, but when I'm excelling, you can't celebrate me? See, that's a fucking hater at that point, right? And we just have to acknowledge it. We can't just downplay it and say, oh, well, that's just the love language, or everybody doesn't celebrate the same. It's like, nah, now we're making excuses, right? Because if I was down and out and I needed $500, you would be there, right? And you'd show up because you would understand that I needed your support. Why is it that when I'm in a space of elevation, you can't also acknowledge that, right? You can't also celebrate that, because that's the other side of the coin. I don't want just friends that can grind and struggle with me. I want friends that can celebrate with me. I actually saw a study that was done on that, where they were saying that it's actually easier and more people find friends that are willing to struggle with them, but that's not actually the best way to be able to determine whether or not who you are interacting with is a qualitative friend. They was like, a better barometer of quality is whether or not, like, who do you call when you celebrate? Who do you feel comfortable calling when you celebrate? They was like, that's actually more of your friend than the person that you call when you down and out. And I had to process that for a moment. I was like, man, that's kind of deep. That's kind of deep, right? And, some people might disagree with that. But at the same time, it's like, yeah. And I don't know if that's because we're all already kind of like tapped into like this struggle mentality and the whole misery loves company type of thing. Like, I think it's layers upon layers of psychology that could be unpacked as it relates to that. But I think that may have some value though, right? Like, who are the people that you feel comfortable calling when you actually do get your moment? That's probably a better measure of who your friend is than who you call when you down and out. That's actually that's topic worthy, but that's something that we'll address later. But I did find that to be kind of interesting. So that last gentleman that made a comment, he also made this comment that I thought was interesting, because this is when we took a bend and we started talking about like elevation as it relates to love and relationships, and how the people that you could be romantically involved with, like how that dynamic may shift.
I took a night shift job. I used to work in tech. Took a night shift job at a factory, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. It was a 15% differential in pay, and that shifted my whole life from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. I met some women, one particular woman I started dating, who we were both up at 3. Now it's damn not working. It's 3 a.m. I got nowhere to be. I'm in a casino. She's at a casino. I meet her. It's great. As we get to know each other, right, we hang out more and more and more, right? And I'm up at weird times in the morning and night. She's up at weird times in the morning and night, and we don't ask each other questions about it. And that is going on month after month, and maybe the third month, something she sees my badge, and she's like, "Oh, you work at this company?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm a night shift manager for a factory, right, building semiconductors." And then that was the end. She pretty much ghosted me with maybe in a week. Yeah, right. And it took me a minute. I was talking to a friend about it, and he's like, "Oh, there's a good chance she thought you were doing something else, wink, wink." Right? Like, and I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "You have your own house, you have your own car, it's 3 a.m. and you're driving around town like you don't have anywhere you need to be." I'm like, "I don't know where you need to be." Right? I'm like, this is a Tuesday. I don't go to work till Wednesday. And because I work night shift, these are my normal hours. Being up at 4 a.m. is normal for me at this point, right? And again, it's a Monday and it's 4 a.m. I don't go to work. I go to work from Wednesday to Saturday, right? And so from her point of view, it's like, what's this guy doing? We never asked each other. And until she found out that I was a, science guy at a factory, right? We were good. But as soon as she did, right?
Okay, hold on now.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on now. Now y'all can tell me how y'all feel about that story, right? You can tell me how y'all feel about that story, right? Because I did push back, right? I'll push back. Now I don't know if y'all was paying attention to what he said. And I like that brother because he did have really good exchanges, but there was just a piece of me that was just like, I don't know if what I heard was her thinking that she just thought you was just out here on some nefarious activities, and that's why all of a sudden she, didn't want to be involved with you. I was like, no, I think she heard factory. I think that she saw you up late at night spending money at 2, 3 a.m. in the morning at casinos. So if you're not here in Phoenix, we got a lot of casinos. Okay. We got every bit of like 6 to 8 different casinos because there's a lot of Native reservations, Native American reservations. And so, it be popping. It's like baby Vegas out here. So like you can come out here and get lit if you want to. So if you out there at one of these casinos and you dress kind of nice, and she hearing the way you talk, she thought she had one. She thought she had a white collar dude that was going to allow her to live the soft life. Okay. She thought she was going to be living the soft life, and she heard factory, and she didn't get that you was in like engineering and like working on rockets and extra things. Like, nah, she didn't hear that. What she heard was factory, and immediately she made you an Amazon worker, and she was like, "Oh no, this nigga can't satisfy my lifestyle," and then all of a sudden that's why she ghosted you. There's no way that she ghosted you because she's just like, "Oh man, he's up late at night." No, she thought you were white collar. She probably thought you owned the business, right? Like, I promise you, she thought it was something else before it was that. So, that I found that to be a little fascinating, you know what I'm saying? But I did enjoy his commentary. Like I said, if you all feel differently, feel free to put it in the comments, and argue with me. But yeah, like I said, I did appreciate that. Now I gotta set up this next this next clip, because the topic of what we were talking about was like inside of a relationship space, right? And, you know, there was a question that came from the audience, and I always love the questions from the audience, right? The question that came from the audience was, where are all the high value men that can hold an intellectual conversation without making references to sex, right? So this was always fun. I got the topic because we're not going to talk about basic shit, okay? However, if the people that are in the room want to talk a little, want to get a little dirty, all right, I'm gonna let the dog off the leash, okay? So during the little period of transition, I said, all right, let me go ahead and throw a little red meat out here, because if this is what someone wants to know, then I'm going to ask this. And so once again, the question was, where are all the high value men that can hold intellectual conversations without referencing sex? That was the question, okay? And it led to this response.
Well, the question is, where is that high value man? He's in your rear view. You already passed him. He ain't have shit but a Honda Civic, stars in his eyes for you, and nothing but potential. And he wasn't dangerous enough for you. And so he grew up. He became a high-value man, and somebody took him off the market as soon as they saw his potential. There is no knight in shining armor. You had to get him when he was a squire. And I'm going to end it there.
That felt like shots
Okay, wait a
were
minute, hold on.
fired.
I had a comment right here because I heard no.
I was with that man for 15 years, and he was cheating on me the whole time. Ooh. And I took that man. He saw what value that I brought from my family, and he took full advantage, and even asked for alimony when I didn't work back in the day. So I had that man. I raised that man, if you will, to a certain extent, and then he just fucked me over. So again, maybe that was partly my fault, because we all have to look at ourselves and see what role we played in our own suffering. But at the end of the day, I had that man.
I got to reply.
Okay, hold on. We got to reply just while we here.
She did not have the man I just described.
Yeah.
She took care of that man, and she took that man's mother's place. She did not have the man I described. I described the man that had nothing but potential, stars in his eyes for you, and a Honda Civic, which meant he was going to do anything and everything he needed to do to elevate that household, not ride your coattail and your family's money and what was already in place.
Yeah.
You got to understand what level of energy your man is working off for you. There's low, there's medium, there's high. Low, that's the dude that drops you off at work and drives your car all day long. There's medium. That's the guy that got his own shit, you got your own shit, and he's happy where y'all at. And then there's high. That's the guy that goes into work and say, no, I need this raise because me and Bae trying to build some shit. So you need to ask yourself, what level of energy do you got your man working off of? And if he ain't working off that level, that ain't the man for you. If he's riding your coattail, that is not the dude for you. Because we know what we gonna do. You could have the fattest dude in this room sitting at the table, and Beyonce walked up to that dude and said, I think you cute, but I like to go for walks. He gonna hop his fat ass up and say, I like to walk too. I do the same. That's what he gonna do. His motivation level gonna go to high in 2.2 seconds. So 15 years, I'm sorry for you that you gave him that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But at 7.5, you should have pulled that parachute cord and got the hell out of that airplane. And I'm done.
I think so.
You know,
Yeah.
what you got,
I
Case?
think
'Cause
there is some value.
This is but this conversation to me is always a fascinating one because I don't know if there's a right or a wrong answer as it relates to potential, right? Because I do believe that potential is a real thing. So where you started, I definitely agree with. But then also where what you just shared, I think that that's also real. And I think it's one of those things where it's like, you can't always tell that someone is full of shit until they reveal themselves, right? And then the question comes down to, were you able to catch the signals fast enough? Because some people are a lot better at hiding it, right? Like some people can keep that charade going indefinitely until you just like nail them to the cross. And then there are other times where in hindsight, you say to yourself, you know what? That was the first red flag that I let pass because I loved him or her, right? Ooh, that was because I did it. And I'm going to be honest, I was dating a habitual liar for a couple of years that in hindsight, I should have known when we first linked up, she was a habitual liar because in high school, she was a habitual liar. And then when we reconnected, you know, I was fresh back in Chicago and I was just, you know, like leaning in, right? So then at that point, I was like just playing the game. I didn't care. But full transparency, sexually, our chemistry was very high. So even though I was noticing all these little lies, man, I was taking one step further. Like, man, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? And so when she told the grandest of lies, as much as it pissed me off, I couldn't even blame her because I was just like, yo, like, that's on me. Like, I know that I've been ignoring all of these signals up to this point, right? And so I think there are times where we do have to have accountability, where we do have to take ownership of where we should have, like you said, maybe it was 7.5 years, right? Maybe it was 5 years. But some people are better at bullshitting. And in those moments, I can't blame the person that hung around, right? Like, I got to acknowledge, like, nah, this person was good at lying until everything fell short.
So as you see, I've got some company now. Casey, who was in Arizona, decided to pull up to the script. So welcome, Casey. I'm glad that you were able to make it for this recap, right?
Oh, what a time.
Right. Okay, so let's just jump right in. Like, so what's your thoughts on what you just saw, like the exchange?
Well, I agree with you in the sense that they were both right. It's funny because I feel like people do a really good job of hiding who they are. So it's not always fair to say, the man you described wasn't a man, it was a boy, or whatever the case may be, because it's like, people, they learn how to create these facades. But then also there was a quote you told me about how like we change every 10 years.
Yes.
So it may not even always have been this intentional devious thing, or they were going to be like a shitty partner, but maybe they started really driven, and then after several years they just kept getting the wind knocked out of them, and they weren't. And so it's hard to say that that's just not the person. He wasn't really a man, and X, Y, Z. Like sometimes women, they 100% do end up raising their men. And I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, but it's a reality. So, I could see how she ended up in that long-term relationship, but at the same time, like I know who he's talking about too. Like Barack Obama was probably the guy he was talking about.
You said who?
Barack Obama.
Oh, Barack Obama.
I mean, he wasn't a scrub.
Got you. Right.
But like,
Yeah, and you know what? And the potential conversation is always a fascinating one. Now, what someone did say, leading shortly thereafter, I should have queued that one up. Where she was saying something like, I think she might have been in her 50s. Like, I'm in my 50s. Like, ain't no potential. At this point, you should have already potentied.
Right, that's what you said. That's what you said.
Did you really just say
that was
potential?
my favorite word of the night.
I was like, okay, all right. And she does, honest to God, have a point, right? Is that there is a point where like the potential conversation that's early 20s, late 20s, early 30s.
Maybe.
By the time you
Early
said maybe
30s.
I'm gonna give you early 30s a little bit though, right? Like, I mean, we're in the day
It
and age
depends on
where
how
just
long you've been doing said thing.
yeah, that is true.
Because, you know,
That is
if
true.
you've been doing this since 18, you've been trying to get your rap career off
Yeah.
the ground since 18. If you're like 34 and you're just like, man,
Casey,
but like this,
I got
song-
bars, and I don't understand
Nah.
why you can like. Look,
You gotta let it go, bro.
I'm at some point that album gonna come out, and when shit go platinum, just remember you're not getting none of the proceeds. But there is, you know, and it's so interesting, right? Because like it's sometimes we see the reels on social media where they'll like break down Morgan Freeman
Right.
didn't really get on until he was like 55, and
He been 55
Walt
my
Disney
whole
was
life. Sorry.
right. You know, you see all of these different things, and it's like now there was a comment that a woman made. I didn't cue that one up, but I thought it was fair. Maybe not inside the context of the conversation. It was a white woman. And not that that's
Is it relevant to the story?
no, it is relevant because there was a point where the conversation came around finances as it relates to elevation. And she was just like, yeah, you know, I kind of feel like, and maybe this is the point that you're talking about, like, why are we just talking about finances as the only form of elevation, which I did agree with, but I didn't feel like we were hanging out in talking about just the finances. However, I think that, and I didn't push back at the time, but inside the scope of that particular thread of conversation, I was thinking, all right, this does feel a little privileged, right?
Ooh, I was going to use that word.
This feels a little privileged, right? Like white people don't have to feel like, you know, because depending upon their station, but even if not, like you could live, you could be redneck as hell out in the Ozarks, and you got a rich ass cousin somewhere in your family line is some money, right? It's some fucking money.
But it's a lot of poor white people.
It is, but I'm saying somewhere in their lineage, somebody broke out. They can make a phone call.
Maybe.
I'm saying we can't even make a phone call.
I'm with you.
You feel what I'm saying? So and again, it's not to downplay their plight or to downplay their experience, but it's to say that to be nonchalant or cavalier as it relates to your financial status, to me, you always say that from a space of privilege. I guarantee you go to India right now, you cannot make that kind of comment. When you just see mounds of trash in some areas and people living in abject poverty, you can't be cavalier about someone that has access to resources. Oh, well, I don't understand why you know. Now, I'm not saying that people from a happiness quotient may not be more happy living in squalor than some people that, you know, may be depressed and has means. That is a real thing. So I'm not discounting that. But when the conversation tilted and we went into a financial space, the fact that it was a white woman, and not the white woman from the video, because that white woman was
that's his new BFF.
If you look, it is.
That's
if you look up ally in Wikipedia, it was the woman that was in that exchange, right? And it's important for me to say this because I really want to give her a special shout out. Before she purchased the ticket, she sent a rather articulate and well thought out direct message to our Instagram account, just making certain that it was okay if she came. And not okay like, am I going to be safe? Nah, it was okay like in a sense of her understanding that this may be a culture driven experience, and she wanted to be sensitive to that, and she didn't want her presence to be off-putting to if it was a space that was kind of FUBU.
Or a safe space to us.
Right.
She didn't want it
Right.
to
And make
create-
us feel uncomfortable. Oh yeah, because she just said follow-up message like, oh my God, Casey is amazing. So you guys talk apparently.
Oh, for a brief second at the end.
Oh, okay, yeah, because apparently she is.
She said, "Go back and read the Instagram thread." I'm
Oh,
like,
did she? Yeah.
girl,
No, because this
y'all was
woman,
talking all
this
day.
woman
I
saved kids from a burning car and showed me videos because one of her adopted kids, I guess, was recording video, like couldn't believe that it was happening. This woman is like, and she showed up, you know, and she was super excited. You know, she was dressed. She asked what the dress code was, which, you know, Black events, that's a little difficult, right?
Okay.
Not just Black events, but Black events in Phoenix. These niggas down here move differently, is all I'm saying, okay?
No.
And she,
See you judging, and you
I'm
being
not
that's some
judging.
big city energy.
No, it's not. No,
Yes, it
no.
is.
What I'm saying is, okay, all right. That does feel a little judgmental. Clarity. Chicago, we are very cliquish. So you know what room you're stepping into. You know if I'm stepping into the artsy room. You know if I'm stepping into the bougie room. You know if I'm stepping into, you know, the hood room, right? And so you ain't got to ask what the dress code is. Nigga, you knew. Do you have a gun? Okay. All right. Then
That's
you
the
probably
dress
need,
code.
that's the dress code, right? Down here, because Phoenix is so broad and so open and so incredibly diverse, you don't know what room you're stepping into. You might think you curated that space to be a safe space for Black people, right? Like there have been times we've gone to like brunch spots, right? They got a DJ that's playing, you know, late 90s ratchet hip hop. They making shrimp and grits and fried chicken and all this other. I remember we one more time, it was nothing but white people sitting out on the patio. And that music was loud as hell.
Having a time.
Having a time,
It
right?
was-
We felt a little like, man, can they
And it
turn
wasn't
this
even
music
like-
down? Can
it-
they turn this
right,
music
it
down a little bit?
wasn't-
This shit kind of ghetto. And these white people are just like,
And it wasn't young white people.
It was old. There was every bit of like 65, 70 plus.
They weren't 70.
Casey.
They were
That woman was AARP, one of them.
AARP,
Not
I was
all
like
of
in
them.
55.
Yeah, but no, she was on the back end, okay? She was, the upper room was,
Don't do her
no, no. But I'm saying though, that's one of the interesting caveats of Phoenix life, right? And they will pull up. So the fact that she had the wherewithal to reach out to me, it wasn't necessary. And my response was like, first off, everybody's welcome. Because even in Chicago, everywhere we've gone, like everybody pulls up and they always feel welcome. But the fact that she had the emotional intelligence to do so, just even in this new political space that we find ourselves in, I was like, I appreciate that. And so, yeah, when I responded back, yeah, we did go back and forth for several hours. And turns out, man, she's got a very diverse family, very, you know, yeah, incredibly diverse family, and she is ride or die for them, right? And so I say that just to say,
Shout out to Angela.
shout out to Angela, right? Exactly. And that was who you saw in the video. But the other woman that made the comment, I did find that to be kind of interesting or whatever. And I did think that she had a valuable point that she was making. It just, you know, it's always context, right? So I didn't lean in on it because I wanted to be welcoming, but you know, it's piece of me that was like,
Yeah, I wanted to call it out because I did feel like, okay, so first of all, finances are a measurement of success and elevation, which is what we were talking about.
right.
It doesn't mean that that's the only measurement, but you know, for a lot of the other metrics, I feel like so many of us can achieve them not easily, but it's kind of the standard, like having a family and, you know, having good people in your life. That's what we all strive to do. And if you make a concerted effort to like do the internal work yourself, you usually can attract that kind of energy around you.
Mhm.
Money in this like really toxic capitalistic capitalistic society that we're in can be hard to attain to be at a very comfortable level. And so to hear that from her was just like, so you in your past life,
and it was very nonchalant.
Oh, yeah,
it was like, yeah, I don't understand what we're talking about.
In her past life, she was definitely a hippie, and you know, and that's cool. But like, yeah, it was privilege.
It was, it was privilege. And no shade, because it's welcome, right? I'm gonna say some ratchet shit,
but she made a good point.
Oh, she made an excellent
point. I can't remember
exactly. No, she did, and that's why I couldn't even stunt it. But I think it was right on the heels of because you had made a comment about a family member who was doing well for themselves, and as a result, everybody in the family kind of
asks for loans
and uses them as an ATM, right? And so then I followed after that, talking about the Jay-Z situation with the cousin that he wouldn't loan $5,000 to, and I couldn't really remember all the semantics, but I said that, and then she came in like, "Yeah, we're talking about money, like that's the only form of elevation." It's just like,
girl,
what you talking about? But nonetheless, though, you know what I'm saying? That's what I love about Tequila Tales, especially potentially in this new space, right? Because it's about to get a little bit more colorful. That's all I'm gonna say. I've been trying to keep it for us by us, but you can't. It is what it is. Okay, so here's another one, and sometimes you cannot stop things from going a little political, right? To give context, what I wanted to know was inside of the relationship dynamic. What happens if you are someone that's driven by purpose and the other one is driven by like progress, right? Can you imagine a world where you and your significant other align? You know what I mean? Like maybe you're the type of person that it's not about the money. It's not about, getting to the next level. You're about peace. Oh, that's what it was. Peace and someone else being driven by purpose. Because peace to me is, okay, I'm not going to pay attention to social media. Yeah, I can't look at CNN and MSNBC and Fox News because it lowers my vibration. And I'm not saying this is me. I'm saying if this was a person that felt this way, and I've got friends that are that way, and I respect it. It agitates me because there are times where it's like the fucking walls are caving in around us, and you're like, la 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 la. Like
I love that song.
Yeah, because you're a damn Smurf in the middle of a war. And it's like, all right, yeah, you're going to be the first that I'm going to allow them to slaughter. I'm not defending you because if you can't even grab a sword because you want to make TikTok videos, now ain't the time for that shit, right? Like there are times where you can get in that state of mind, but then there are other times where I have to take a step back and be like, you know what though? But even when you get totally filled up, you look for that person to help you release the pressure, right? You look for that person to make you laugh. You look for that person to make you connect with other elements of life so that life isn't, the totality of life isn't just war and combat. You know what I'm saying? And so I recognize I have to, again, you got to allow people to be who they are, right? And so the question was surrounding what does that relationship look like? And do you think that you could be with someone that operates on a different chassis, regardless of what end of the spectrum you fall on, whether you are purpose or whether you are peace? Because neither are bad. Both are actually good, right? But if peace means I have to be disconnected, what do you talk about? You know what I mean? And sometimes I question that myself. Like how would that be if you were just the skipping person, and I'm sitting here like
Your head's on fire.
my head's on fire. You know, like the only way it would work was if you successfully were able to pull me off the brink, and then I just saw you as my balance, right?
Yeah. So I don't know if you want to play the clip first.
Okay, I can play the clip
Okay.
first, but then remember what you gonna say.
Mhm.
So being uninformed and disengaged is what they want. They want you ignorant. They want you not showing up at the polls. They want you so overwhelmed that you shut down. You should be informed to make decisions on a local level because that's directly what impacts you. We are federal employees sitting here in front of you telling you what is going on in your country. What they want is for you to be so overwhelmed that you cannot function. So being uninformed by something, everyone in here has Google. You can ask questions, you can dig deeper, you can do the research to figure out what is truth and what is misinformation. So that is your civic duty. That is your right as living on this soil. That is the right that they are trying to take away from you as a Black American, where they are trying to revoke the Civil Rights Amendment of 1965, the Voting Rights Act. That is your right. Black people are the only people in this country that have ever had, literally, to have to fight to vote. So that is what they want. They want you so disinformed and overwhelmed that you can't think straight. That you are just like, I'm so overwhelmed that I can't even concern myself with this. Let me just get up every day and try to make $1. That is what they want. And I am so passionate about this because we are sitting here as federal employees going through it every day. Somebody still has to press the button to make sure that Social Security check goes out to your grandmother every day. To make sure that veterans disability check goes out every day. We still have to sit there and press a button. It is not automatic. It is not, Elon is doing this and doing that. Hey, we can go ahead and just cut all these government jobs and everything will still operate the same. It will not. It will not.
You got a comment? Hold on, wait a minute. Why you right here, Chris? I got a comment right here.
And just piggybacking on what my friend here said, as not only as a federal employee, but also as a military member still serving, everything that is going on in this world, we have no choice but to stay informed. We need to stay informed because some of us are still putting on that uniform and going out and serving this country. We need to know what the hell we're still fighting for. Whether it's good, the bad, I'm still gonna put on that uniform no matter what because that's what I raised my right hand for.
Thank you for your service.
Absolutely.
I love them.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So to kind of get back to your question about like whether you could be with someone who can just kind of check out, they just want peace and love, and they just are kind of in a lane. I don't think that I could ever be okay with that, and for multiple reasons. I think when you have, you always remind me who says this, but any like modicum of like understanding in this country, if you're like woke in this
James
country,
Baldwin.
you're right, James Baldwin. You're like in a constant state of rage,
Right.
and to know like our history, and then the current things that are going on, I feel like is almost you're almost actively hurting me by not staying informed, or our children, or the disabled, or whoever. Like as you heard in that clip, people's Social Security can be taken away. You got retirees, all these people around the country who paid into this. This is not entitlement, right? This is our money. all of these veteran services, all of these disability services, all of these things that keep our education, our schools running, school lunches, all this stuff. It feels like even on a local level, if you are only aware of local politics, cool. But for you to like actively check out, I understand wanting to protect your peace. Fine if you do it for a period. But if you are able to have that sort of cognitive dissonance, I just feel like I can't trust you because there's too much. Now, it is one thing if we were during a time period where it's like you can kind of coast. I don't know what time period, maybe like the Clinton years. I don't know. It was, besides the scandal, it felt very, you know, he had the budget balance, you know,
Right.
He was teetering on thinking he was black, but he wasn't. It was like, whatever, dude, like you got the budget balance. But like outside of that period, and for a stretch, we had a moment where it felt like we were coasting a little bit. I don't feel like there is a time in this country for Black Americans specifically to be that uninformed and just be able to completely check out, because that means that you're actively working against progress. And how does our culture, how does humanity move forward without progress? Like you guys denying climate change, or like things that are life-saving, like we cut off a lot of like research and things that are life-saving elements in the medical community. Like I can't do it.
It's wild, right? Because all right, and you did just say I personally can't.
Yeah.
Because I'm totally in agreement with you. I'm also trying to play devil's advocate in my mind, right? But not even just, you know, my job. I guess I do it sometimes to attempt to arrive at not just my truth, but what might be universal truth, right? In a sense of, is that fair? You know what I'm saying? And what I mean by is that fair? From a privileged perspective, you know, when we talk about freedom, you know, and just me being who I am, like that's something that's core to me, is like the pursuit of freedom and whatever that means, you know. Sometimes I get frustrated at the fact that our counterparts get an opportunity to experience a freedom that we'll never be able to achieve, no matter how hard we grind. It don't matter how much money I obtain. It don't matter how much money I donate to X, Y, and Z, how many times I put myself on the front line. When can I rest? When can I not have to be the forebearer of every time I see something online, my stomach got to get tight. It's almost like we were born into this trap where we just can't, you know. And it was almost like that ratchet ass show that you had me watching. What was it, from Africa?
Coming from America was not ratchet, to be clear.
How'd you know that's why I was gonna go?
Because I was gonna reference that show, but it was not ratchet, and you being a hater because you can't move that.
I'm lying. Bro. It was a little ratchet, but it was entertaining though. But it's funny that you knew exactly where I was going. But the main guy who was kind of like the one who was facilitating the comedian coming out there or whatever, where he was kind of like, that was one of the things that he loved about being in, where was they, Ghana, was it?
That family was in Ghana.
That family was in Ghana, where he was just like, I'm not a black man out here. I'm just a man. And, you know,
freeing feeling.
And in that moment, when he said that, I don't think I've even processed it fully at this moment because, and this is light skin privilege probably. I know I'm black. Every time I walk into a room, I'm aware of the disparity between me and it. Shit, I'm aware of how different I am in most rooms, even most black rooms. So I am very much aware of that. I will acknowledge, I don't know if that changes in Africa. I don't all of a sudden feel safer because I'm around a bunch of black people, right? I think it may take away one element of the racial, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But then depending upon how they're treating me being a fairer skin, you know, I tend to think I'm brown skin, but like, does that now create a new dynamic where they think I'm better than them because I'm lighter skinned, and now this is a whole new dynamic or whatever. So like that's why I don't romanticize the pilgrimage back to Africa thing.
Mhm.
However, it would be dope to see myself as just a man and not a black man. Now, I don't necessarily see that as like a big burden because I love fucking being black. And I think that that's part of what makes me dope. I actually lean into the culture aspect because that's part of what makes me who I am. That's what I love about this brand and the fact of how it's been managed up to this point that it's all about the culture. Like I'm not afraid of the culture. I love the culture, but I hate the fact that it feels like black always has an asterisk.
Asterisk.
What am I saying?
Asterisk.
Am I saying it right?
It sounds like you're saying
It's
it wrong.
whatever. Y'all get it, right? but like I hate that, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, being a minority owned business, it's like, all right, look, I'm gonna take whatever benefits I can get, but you know, just even with this whole new DEI thing or whatever, and like just this belief that just because you're black, it means you gotta operate differently, as opposed to, no, that's just a flavor. That's you feel what I'm saying?
Yeah. And when you were talking about like, because this just made me think of this, like walking into a room, let's say in Ghana, you're no longer considering your race at that point, which is freeing, especially for Black Americans, I think. But because of our programming, we are still thinking of the othering.
The other.
So either it's because I'm American, or it's because of some classism, you know, like in certain areas, depending on where we're going, we could be aiding in gentrification of wherever it is that you're moving to, right? So like there are just different pillars of othering.
Right.
And I didn't really think about that. It's almost like you have to start deprogramming yourself.
And how the fuck do I do that?
Not in America, because it's too.
But where can I go and just be Isaac? Where can I go and not have to acknowledge the separation between me and another human being?
I think that's human nature, though.
Is it though? It's not, because white people in America don't feel that way.
Well,
they feel like I don't see color. They mean that shit. They do not see color.
But
I mean, they see it. To be clear, but they don't feel the weight.
Maybe not the same weight that we feel, but don't get it.
I don't think they feel weight at all.
No.
Unless they're on the basketball court.
No. They definitely do. Like you will, if you have a mediocre white dude who thinks very highly of himself, and then he walks into a room of power, he notices it. He knows that he's not that guy. He might be that guy at like IBM or whatever, but then he gets into a room of like actual powerful people, all also white. But I think he does know I'm inferior.
No. I'm not talking about they don't feel insecurity.
Yeah.
But I'm saying.
But these are.
But I'm saying even beyond the insecurity, even beyond the imposter syndrome, there is an added layer of weight that we feel being born in America purely because of our color. That even Black people in Africa, I don't think are weighted with. No. Because if you grow up where everybody looks like you, then you do feel like it's on some merit shit. Here in America, we know it ain't never been a meritocracy, because I can be the greatest, but I still got to overcome the Black part. I still have to overcome the Black part, despite the only area where we have not had to do that in is sports and hip hop, and sports recently. Not the Jackie Robinsons and all the people that broke down the barriers, but I'm saying in recent years, because I just saw where Steve Nash. No, it wasn't Steve Nash. It was
It was Steve Nash.
What's Steve Nash?
Mm.
They was talking about how he was like, he wishes he was black.
Mm.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, you know, and when you hear that, it's like, okay, finally, one of y'all can at least admit it. You know what I'm saying? Because I know y'all envy us sometimes, but it's like, it's almost like we carry this burden where they get to walk around with this. Oh, and maybe it's a facade, and maybe I'm being ignorant to their inferiority that they can feel at times. But because we know the systemic things that we have to fight against, I'm like, at what point can we just take a deep breath and not? Because I hate to admit it, there aren't many white friends that I have where there isn't always a hidden little line where it's like, please don't cross this line and make this shit weird.
Oh, no,
you know what I'm
sure,
saying? Like, you could be woke, you could be an ally, you could be whatever. Please do not cross this line and make me have to determine how much do I love you, because you just, you see what I'm saying? And they can call one another bitch and do all this other type, but it's like, all right, you can play with me, but there's some things that you can't say, but not even just one word. You can't say boy. You can't say like anything to me that now injects race into this. And it's like, I want to be free of it. But if I am free of it, if I free myself of it, then I kind of make myself a target, right? Because they won't understand, oh, that's a liberated black man right there. They go, like, oh, that's a nigga I can say nigger around. You know what I mean? Like, they're not gonna know that I've stripped away the power of the word. They just gonna think, oh, I can say the N-word around this guy. And I'm like, no. I still whoop that ass, you know what I'm saying?
I think though, I do think that there's a level of that. So like you were saying that, like, let's say in another country where everybody is born either white or black, let's just say Zanzibar, like just a random African country that came to the top.
We clearly going to Zanzibar because I keep
going to Zanzibar on vacation. Right. But everybody's born black. But don't think that there aren't things that they have to think about, especially in a classism sense. In a lot of countries, classism is big.
Oh, right.
Like, especially like, you know, I work in tech, and there are like segments of people from India where it's like, I don't mess with them because of the classism disparity between them. And it's serious. Like, it's not just, so they do have certain weights that they carry, and it does connect to insecurity, despite how we segment it. Like, we feel it's sometimes for some people inferiority, but it is an insecurity. And so I don't think it's unique to Black Americans. I just think this is our specific plight.
That's fair.
But I think that most cultures have
some version of this.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That's fair. All right. All right. Shit, you held it down. Okay. All right.
You asked the question, I answered.
Would you say I drink and I know things, right?
All right,
here we go. All right, so this is the final clip that I'm going to share, and this is a brother, man. He's shown up at a few of our events. I'd actually like it if he showed up a lot more, but I just really like this gentleman because he always makes very poignant arguments, and he's someone that I can tell just has a lot of value, and I think I like it because he reminds me of someone that I would kick it with, and how do I put this? He's intelligent, he's inside of the business world, but he's not afraid of being woke, if that makes any sense, right? I know that it's not like everybody tries to demonize this word. I'm taking it back personally on purpose. I used to make fun of the hoteps and all that, but not anymore, right? Like,
you're like a step away from being hotep.
Oh, listen,
you just don't like make your own water.
Like, no, militant, not hotep, because hotep be on some different
no
grand rising queen, you know. Yeah, that you know, I believe in science. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say, and we'll just leave it at that. But what I'm getting at is I like this brother because, you know, he and I have had some exchanges, and one of the things that I've recognized about him is it's like, okay, like, I kick it with you, and I kick it with you for real reasons, because first and foremost, he honors and appreciates Black women. So I don't know who he dates or whatever, because I find a lot of women attractive. I don't like the man that's dating a woman outside of our culture and feels like that means that he now has to, disrespect and downplay women inside the culture as if they led him away. Bro, just admit that, you thought the Latina was sexy. Like, that's okay. Like, you don't have to shit on all sisters because you're dating a Latina. Like, dude, just date the Latina. It's okay. You know what I'm saying? Like,
We don't
nigga,
care.
right? We don't care. Like, I love a good steak, but salmon and chicken might be my go-to, but I'm not gonna be like, oh man, well, I like salmon, so the hell with steak. Like, no, bro. Like,
Steak
it's
knows
all
what it did. Steak knows what it did.
it's stupid, right? And so when I interact with people that I don't know like that, but you just kind of see the comments that they make, how they carry themselves, it makes me feel good. And I say, all right, I can trust you. But he was the one that actually closed out the event. Because like I said, we got a little political on the back here. You know what I'm saying? Because as you saw, those two women were they were federal workers, and then there was a whole other exchange between two brothers. One that I could tell was probably on the right, the other one that was clearly on the left. It didn't get heated,
Right.
but it got a little like, I see you, and nah, you know what I'm saying? But this was the brother that ended the conversation, and I actually thought this is something that's important for us to acknowledge.
So, I mean, to the idea that we don't have a perfect system, you don't have a perfect ally. Your mother's love is not perfect for you. Your wife or significant other's love is not perfect for you. You do not have a perfect ally that's up in alignment with everything that's important to you. They don't exist. To the idea of being able to ignore things that do not impact you, I want to remind you that we have a president that is in open defiance of 9-0 Supreme Court ruling right now. Open defiance. I read a post earlier today, actually made one that was speaking to, there's an ad I saw for a temporary company, maybe some of you have seen a temp agency in Louisiana that's looking to hire farm workers to pick blueberries. The ad is for $11 an hour for 10-hour days, 7 days a week to pick blueberries. That shit's gonna rot in the fields, right? Where we lose sight is the big picture. So what happens once we start? So we've lost the labor, we've had mass layoffs. The people that picked food willingly and happily, things that we're not gonna do, are not doing anymore. There are $45 billion earmarked for the building of new prisons in the U.S. Prison labor, quietly, is one of the best kept secrets in the U.S. What do you think that happens when you have an expanded definition of what a criminal is? As we see the man that was sent to El Salvador without due process, who wasn't a criminal, just deported. And the idea is to now send the homegrown ones as well. So what do you think happens when you can be labeled a criminal, you can be labeled a criminal, you can be, by decree from a monarch, and you fill those prisons? What do you think the plan is to supplement that labor that we've lost that's been deported? Do you think they did not understand that when the people who are picking this food leave, that somebody's got to do it? And who do you think that's going to be? So you can pick and choose to be blind by it, but there's a plan that involves you, whether you want it to involve you or not. And so we get to be comfortable right now, but the people that are making your food, that are growing your food, that are picking your food, when they leave, you're not going to starve. And what will happen is people will be forced to choose between what's ethical and moral and eating. And they'll turn a blind eye to your ass being put in prison to go out and pick that food for 37 cents an hour. So.
Whew. Man, let me tell y'all something.
Man, listen.
He dropped it.
Dropped it. Dropped it. And what was crazy was we had actually just sent one another that post, I think, earlier that day, because that was around the time that it was trending. And I could not agree with them more wholeheartedly, as it relates to understanding the deeper points. And I think that that even kind of echoes back to a point that was made earlier, where the first woman that made a comment, or the first clip that I played, she might have been like the second or third that made a comment. Remember those two Hispanic women that were talking about how she had a friend of like 27 years that that they just kind of, she said in the past 8 years, ironically enough, she said the last 8 years they haven't really been vibing. And so I looked at it and I was like, yeah, I think that 8 years, I think I know what that was. That was 2016. That was, they probably went right, you went left, and y'all haven't been seeing eye to eye. You know what I mean? And it's, I think that there are sometimes that some people don't understand that many of us aren't just looking at, some people think that they call it Trump derangement syndrome, right?
He
Which
calls
I,
it that.
well, he called it that, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of people
It
that's
became a
echoing
thing,
this
yeah.
nonsense, and they think it's derangement until you really just start connecting the dots. And this ain't conspiracy theory, right? It's like, this is mathematics. You know, this is, if A equals, you know, B and B equals C, then A equals C. Like, this is transitive. This isn't somebody making something up. If all the people that were doing certain jobs you are now removing, then all of a sudden you look up and, you know, these jobs are not being filled, but those jobs are, what do we call them in COVID? Essential.
Essential workers. Yeah.
If the essential workers aren't doing the essential activities, where they gonna get the work from? But then you see all this investment in slave labor, and you're like, okay.
And the 13th Amendment is in place. So if you're a prisoner, you can basically do slave labor. And if they keep changing what a prisoner means, oh, he's got a tattoo that is a gang tattoo, they decided, or he wore these specific clothes. Like, they have people in that El Salvadorian prison that there's a man, a gay man, he's a hairdresser who I think it was his tattoo or something that they said made him, or they decided he must have been
and that to me, man, like
crazy.
we already know that this is despicable, but it's like, it's beyond despicable. They are so incredibly incompetent. Honest to God, that pisses me off. All right, pause for a moment. That's the thing that pisses me off the most about all of this. I literally made a comment on some post, if not today, then it was yesterday, where I was like, I would respect all of them so much more if they just own the shit. Like, be the bad guy. Like, be the tough guy. Be the bad guy. Own that shit. You can't be the bad guy and the victim at the same time. It's like they come out here and they do this thing where it's like, you know, oh, they act offended when they're being challenged, but it's like, no, if you guys just be the bad guy, then at least we can know where we stand. You know what I'm saying? But when I see incompetence, like the fact that Pete Hegseth has sent yet another text message on the family thread in the Zoom chat or whatever it is, the Signal, like,
it's secure. Signal secure.
it's like I don't know if they're, I don't know if they are. Is it that you are so incredibly incompetent that you don't learn from your own mistakes, or is it that you think you are so above the law that you're just like, I don't really give a fuck? You know what I'm saying?
Both, because he is a full-blown alcoholic. Like, it is
You know what I
definitely
mean?
both for him.
And you're watching them be flustered and and the only thing that is unfortunate about it is that no one on that side is going to even remotely hold them accountable. I'm hoping in their private meetings, in their private town halls or sessions, someone is being fired or saying, y'all making us look bad. Because what they may be saying is, shit, they can't even do nothing about this. And so it's just like guns blazing, right? In which case, and I've said this in earlier episodes, and I don't want y'all to think I'm speaking it into existence. I'm just warning people. there will be a nuclear result to this. And I don't mean that figuratively. There's going to be something major that happens that harms a significant amount of Americans. And I think that that level of fear is going to be the only thing that jars people out of this lackadaisical, weird space that they're in, similar to 9/11. It's going to be something. It's going to be a 9/11 style, maybe even larger, because Trump is way more ridiculous than Bush ever was. Right? It's going to be something that needs to cripple us for a moment, where everybody has a come to Jesus moment that recognizes that you cannot put inefficient, ignorant people in positions that are this important and not think it's going to be fallout. Like we're seeing it. Like planes are falling out of the sky, helicopters are doing nosedives, and it's like on one level, there's the conspiracy theorist in me that's like, oh, maybe it's a little bit, but on another level, it's like that's what inefficiency looks like. If I all of a sudden said I've been drinking too much, let me let my 1.5-year-old son drive us home, I should probably expect a car wreck, right? I should not expect to make it home safely. We're not going to make it home safely. I'm letting y'all know that right now. I'm hoping that a lot of us are protected, but it's going to be some carnage, because we 4 months in and we have planes falling out of the sky, and the head of the Department of Defense sending random ass text messages to people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I hope it's not that kind of event.
It's gonna have to be.
The problem is the problem for me is I don't even think it'll unite us. Like the way that our minds have been working, like with COVID should have united us. And that became a divisive thing, right? So like at a point I was like, it's gonna have to be like an alien invasion that unites us. But then low key, that wouldn't even, because like our response, I don't know if you saw that movie Arrival. Remember when like those pods came to all the different countries,
right,
and they had to decide like how we gonna do it. Like America was trying to communicate it with, it was all peace and love and shit. And then but China was like, we finna drop bombs on them. Like we about to tear these things up. And there was this premonition thing, whatever, spoiler, I guess.
It should be.
Right, but they decided to listen, and come to find out they were not like aggressive or whatever. And you would think things like that would unite us, either as a country or as a world.
Yeah, you're right.
And not no more.
Especially
9/11 for like 35 minutes. As a country, we were like, man, we are in this together. And we were. But then, we invaded Iraq, and it was like, that's not where we're supposed to.
But see, it's gonna have to be. Damn, and I hate to say this.
Don't say it, because you trying to get us on the watch list.
No.
They checking phones.
Oh no. It's not even nothing. I hate to say it, because this is not a future I want to see, but it would have to be a Great Depression style type thing. And it's not as fast as things can shift, because, we're in a society that moves fast. So things can tank fast, but things can, pull up fast. I think that with the level of stupidity that is permeating this world, it has to be a prolonged suffering that wipes out people's ego and gets them to a space of humility where they are just searching for a solution, right? And because when you just see the way that we're moving right now, the fact that we don't believe in science, the fact that experts, it doesn't mean anything. Like, I can believe in conspiracies, but like common things are like conspiracies now. And it's just like, okay, you got to shake people up to the point where they admit, I don't know. And now I want the experts. And like you said, I didn't even think, because when you said aliens, I was like, yeah, that could do it, but you're all right. Nah, because we might want to fight the aliens, even though they can fly at light speed and do all kinds of shit. We would believe that American greatness if Trump told you that, oh no, we've been developing Space Force.
forgot about Space
Because that's a
Force.
real
It is
thing.
still a real
That's a
thing.
thing. You know
Come
what I'm
on,
saying?
Y'all gotta get rid of
And,
Space Force.
so
This is that.
God damn. Anyway, y'all, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be I didn't mean to go on that tangent. I just I try to see our way out of this because I think about what I felt the future. You know what? Lately I've been having these thoughts of what I thought the future would look like when I was a kid. And sometimes, I might listen to a song, or I don't know. It's been something that's been happening in my mind lately where I've been trying to recapture a little bit of, and maybe it's because I have a toddler, right? And I think that's one of the dope things about having a child, and even having it at my age now, is I'm forced to look at life through his lens. So not only accepting what it is that I'm going through, but just every little development that he's doing, every little thing that fascinates him, and it's so crazy because one thing that I'm actually kind of surprised at is that my memory is pretty solid. Like, I remember a lot of things about when I was 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. Maybe not all the minutia, but a couple of core memories really stick out. A couple of core things that I just held on to that used to get me excited about the future and just imagining what it would be like when I was an adult, and now I'm here. And to be clear, I'm loving life.
Oh.
I'm loving life, right? Like I really am connected to the present, but there are times where I realize I've lost a little bit of that. I don't know if excitement isn't the right word. It's something else, but I can see it in my son, right? And I question, where did that go? You know what I mean? And not where did that go? Yeah, obviously maturity, but is there a way that I could recapture some of that? You know what I'm saying? Have I adopted some frames of thinking that the world put on me that's not really me, if that makes any sense? Like, sometimes I want to challenge that. Like when we were talking a moment ago and I was talking about freedom, I think that that's what I'm searching for, is what does freedom look like, right? It might not be financial. It's probably something that's fully within grasp, right? Outdated mindsets that I need to let go. Like, in what ways am I not exploring? Have you ever thought about that? Like, in your own city, do you know everything about your own city? You probably don't. You'll spend a few $1,000s to go on a vacation and you ain't fully explored your city. You know what I'm saying? The only time that you give yourself an opportunity to enjoy something is Friday night or Saturday, right? We wake up on Sunday, we feel like, oh, I gotta go to work. And it's like, I'm not gonna go as far as say that's a choice, because I get it, we gotta work, but that part in your brain that says this is slavery. I'll give you an example and then I'll wrap. A couple of years ago, maybe close to 3 years ago, I was consistently in the gym, and I had a short window to work out, and as a result, I couldn't do a good warm-up session. So I just kind of jumped in, and I ended up pulling a disc in my back, right? And I should have just let it heal, but because I was committed to, being at the gym a couple of days a week, and I ended up taking a trip down to Phoenix, and then we drove to LA, which you shouldn't be doing when you slip the disc, all this shit. Just know I developed sciatica. Okay. And it was one of the most testing and trying periods that I've dealt with in the last 2 decades, maybe my entire life, because who gives a shit about your money? Who gives a shit about your emotions when your physical health is in question? Y'all, this right here, I could not do this. The fact that I can do this now says something. I could not bend over and do this. It was a pain that like whether I was sitting, whether I was sleeping. Oh man. And just every once in a while I think back to that. I have to, just so I can appreciate like shit. I'm letting Trump stress me out. And I promise you, fuck Trump when it comes to sciatica. I promise you. Like when I was going through that, the idea that I might not be able to walk regular again or sit comfortably, I wasn't thinking about politics. I wasn't thinking about finances. I wasn't thinking about this before we had Alex. I was just wondering, will I ever walk regular again? And even as I think about it right now, it's like, that was a frightening period. That was a very frightening period. And so sometimes I have to conjure that so that, I can remember it. But yeah, sometimes we gotta, all of this stuff is important, but it's wild how at times you need things to jar you out. You need things to snap you out of the bullshit, whether it be social media, whether it be family drama, whether it be just whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a hierarchy of needs. I'll put it like that. There's a hierarchy of needs. And I'm not someone to say that the stuff that we argue about online isn't important, because it is. But I think that it does become important that you always maintain perspective, right? You got to maintain perspective because, like I said, first and foremost, man, the most important thing for me is the health of my family and myself, first and foremost, right? And everything else, man, everything else shifts under that. And so it becomes important to know your whatever is going to be like your guiding principles, you know what I'm saying? And not allowing these temporary moments to deviate us too far from whatever your path is, yeah. And I won't go further than that in that space, because regardless of what side of the fence that we fall on, I do think that, ironically enough, there's a lot more that connects us than separates us. It's just unfortunate that right now we're in a state where, and I will be transparent with this, we got an administration that thrives off of carnage and chaos, right? That's not about connecting people, right? Everybody wants to be all peace and love and shit now. And it's like, nah, but that's not the energy of the person that's at the helm. You know what I'm saying? It's making it hard. It's making it hard for us to connect. I saw something, some reel on that came out from Fox News where they were just so amazed that people that were in dating could, oh my God, people aren't dating people because, they aren't dating people because of your political. And it's like, yeah, We aren't. Like, why are you surprised at that, right? Because this ain't got nothing to do with politics no more. You got one person that has literally been about separation, been about carnage, been about chaos, been about talking shit constantly. On Easter Sunday, he sends off a long ass thing shitting on all of his enemies. This is on Resurrection Day. But everybody's like, I don't understand why people wouldn't want to date someone that has a different political view than you. Forgive my French, but shut the fuck up. Seriously. Are you serious? Your own president right now is on Easter Resurrection Sunday talking shit about all of his enemies, but you're trying to figure out why someone wouldn't want to date you because of who you decided to vote for. When has this been regular? But anyway, like I said, I had a couple of comments, man, that I at least wanted to address because I appreciate it when you all tap in, you know what I'm saying? And this was something that I actually thought was pretty dope. And a lot, going back to an earlier conversation, in a lot of African countries, there is tribalism. Yes, we know we are Black. However, tribalism and classism are priority. It's not unique to Black Americans. I appreciate that insight, you know what I'm saying? Because, yeah. You know what I mean?
Animated moi.
Right, which is dope. You know what I'm saying? It's not derangement. It's very intentional. See, I'm talking about. See, this person right here is a thinker. This is a thinker right here. You know what I'm saying? They know they are incompetent. They are operating out of fear. So this is reminiscent of centuries ago. Okay.
But can I tell you like the last thing that I think might unite us?
If it ain't the aliens, what is it gonna be?
It's not the aliens.
what's
Wait
going
for it. At least as Americans.
What's that?
What's that?
What's that?
Inconvenience.
Okay.
Collectively, we do not. We expect packages to appear at our door at a minimum of 2 days or less because of Amazon. We expect to be able to buy the gadgets, the clothes, the things, all that we need to do to make a perfect life for our toddler, or to get to work at whatever time we want to get to work from home if we don't feel like it that day. We require convenience, which is why we eat all these packaged products because it's easy to just rip open. Like it's become American to have conveniences. Black, white, Mexican, brown, whatever. And if these tariffs start, and he's already pulled back on the China thing, like he's already starting to pull back on
China ain't pull it back.
China is not.
They ain't pull it back. They like, no, you about to feel this wrath.
If China starts to really make us feel it, which I think they might, because I feel like they're in the petty space right now. They're just like, y'all have underestimated how much we own you. If they make us really feel it collectively, there will be blood in the streets.
That is interesting.
Yeah. Listen, we ain't got to go on a deep dive. We talk about this next week.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that is a thing that I think would unite us as a country. You are not about to have me picking my own food, mowing my own grass, cleaning my own house, cleaning my own shutters, doing all the things. There are so many things that we have gotten so accustomed to. Oh, we are.
I mean, call it what it is.
We're lazy. We are the laziest of all.
We're lazy.
And it's like this may be a reckoning to get us to start growing our own food and doing things that we should be doing for ourselves.
But see, that has been part of what I see some people, because people always like to do that shit. Like when an argument, sometimes I always say it's three types of people. People that want to fight, want to be right, and want to win. Sometimes when people just want to be right, they start pivoting.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, well, really, we should have been doing this all along. Right. We need to have these companies back in America. And it's right. And it's like, okay, but see, you're talking like you just wave a magic wand and then all of a sudden we got industry here. You do know that's like 10 years of like servitude and you dealing without a lot. That's a lot of Christmases of you having to do some extra shit.
We don't
like
have the talent to do a lot of the
we
things
don't
that they do overseas.
We don't. And so like what my man was talking about with them picking blueberries and shit like that. Okay, who gonna pick them blueberries? Because
For 37
it ain't gonna be my 45-year-old ass or nobody that's older than me.
Right.
If you expecting 20-year-olds to come and pick blueberries,
Pull them off of TikTok.
it's going and it's gonna have to be people that they lock up. Because if it's not that, but what if that's not enough? Because if that's not enough, then at that point,
slavery. Like they will have to enact the military on the citizens of this country. Like we are slow walking to this.
Man,
and I'm gonna leave y'all with this. Auschwitz, if I'm not mistaken, is not in Germany. So they had those camps outside of Germany. It was occupied by Germany, but it's in Poland. So El Salvador is not in America. So they don't have to abide by American rules and how they treat their prisoners and all of that. Like they are playbook. It is literally the playbook from Germany. Like it.
Ain't y'all glad y'all watched the script? Don't y'all feel good tonight? You know what I'm saying? Well, we did the recap of Elevation and shit. You know what I'm saying? Now, I would just say this much on a positive note. Okay. We did. The goal was not to make y'all feel heavy, because one of the things that I always tell Casey is that things seldom play out exactly the way that you think they are, right? And so that actually gives me some comfort, is while we may be painting very, potential bleak and dark futures, I'm someone that always believes in the resiliency of just humans and the human spirit. I don't know what it's going to take to give us a collective jolt or reawakening. I feel like many of us are already here. If you're watching this, you probably are already here. So what we're trying to figure out is, how do we maintain a semblance of normality and comfort while we go through whatever this process is going to look like, right? Because the reality of it is while I do not want myself, my family, or you to have to endure this, there are some people that need to. There are some people where pain is going to be the only teacher for them. There are some people where you cannot show them, you cannot give them, you know what I mean? Like you can tell people all you want to about science and this, that, and the third. They anti-vax until they catch COVID and they realize they got a couple of days to live. And then they're asking the doctor, well, can I get the vaccine now? And it's like, I'm sorry, but that's not how it works. It's too late now, right? And so I don't know what version of that is going to play over into this in the fuck around and find out, right? I'm hoping that since most of us did not fuck around, that when the find out portion comes, that we are not the ones that are the primary people that are dealing with it the hardest. But I do know that we're going to have to deal with some of it. So because we're going to have to deal with some of it, we're going to need outlets, right? We're going to need comfort. We're going to need community. And one of the things that I continue to say, and I'm going to continue to say it, is I'm big on us circling the wagons, right? Because community has always been our protection. Community has always been our salvation. It's always been our family, right? And while we can all view things differently, I think many of us do understand the importance of what this is, right? And so, for me, what that means is just being tapped in, not just with your close friends, but with your family, and being intentional, right? Like not waiting for social media or waiting for media or any type of messaging to arrive at your doorstep to tell you when it's time to take action. You kind of know what it is you need to do, right? If you really look at your finances, you spend a lot of money each month, money you don't want to spend, but money that you do spend. And what we need to start asking ourselves is, can we spend our money more wisely, right? One of the things I will give my wife absolute credit over is if there is someone that she wants to support, she is very intentional. Right now, we don't drink Folgers. We don't drink any other coffee other than, what is it, Black and Bold. She found out about these this black-owned coffee
There's a
producer.
specialty coffee, also black owned. We have dabbled.
You see what I'm saying? And it's actually really good because I'm lactose intolerant, and this stuff does not. Between that and the oat milk, it's got me regular. But I'm just saying, where you used to just go to Target and you would just buy recklessly. Since many of us ain't at Target right now, we've already made the adjustment, right? So many people that have already shifted away from Target, you know, when you think on it, that's what's funny. Now that they want to talk to Al Sharpton, which is some hilarious shit. Because of all people that you need to talk to, you like Al Sharpton is the leader of the Negroes.
Not Al.
Can I?
The leader of the
Can I
Negroes.
talk to? Who's the leader of the new Jesse? No, not Jesse.
Nah,
It's
Jesse
Al.
Al's
Okay.
still on MSNBC. We're gonna do Al.
So that's why they went with him. But the fact that they needed to speak with him says that, and it ain't like all black people are boycotting Target, but the black and the people that did not agree with their moves, oh, it hit their bottom line to the point where they're seeing issues, you know what I'm saying, financially, and now they want to make adjustments. So what that means is those of us that have already shifted, okay, where y'all spending y'all money at now? Costco? Okay, that's good. But you know what the next level is? So are we really winning if you just shifted from one space to another space? Yeah. But it's not benefiting our community at all. Like, we literally generate trillions of dollars in revenue from spending annually. What happens if just a small percentage of us starts to be more intentional, where we say to ourselves, like with us, coffee, okay.
Yeah, anything I'm looking for, I will first search if there's a black-owned company that has it,
And if it's a legit company, like, yo,
Yeah, it's gotta
build
be
a new
legit.
habit, build a new habit and share it. Share with your other friends. Because if we keeping it a buck, all of us are using Amazon Prime right now. Most of us are not just going, like, even if you go to the grocery store, at least 2-3 times a week, you probably got an Amazon truck pulling up to your front door. And if you are a member of Amazon Prime, you probably get free shipping. What else could you bypass? Right now, when I shave my head, I used to use Gillette. She put me up on this Burdock Natural, right? Where it's like this soap where it lathers. I have not gotten razor bumps or any kind of skin rash. It's made specifically for black people, or people of color, right? Haven't had any razor bumps. So I haven't used Gillette in at least 2 years, right? It seems small, but it's just a deliberate shift. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, okay, I'm just one person. What if 3,000 other people decided to stop using Gillette and started using Burdock Naturals? You see what I'm saying? Now all of a sudden you got a thriving black business. This is how we change shit. It happens incrementally. One of my favorite books was Atomic Habits, right? And this book was written by a gentleman who, it's a phenomenal book. I recommend that anybody reads it. But the basic gist of it is how major change happens in increments. We always think that you have to wake up tomorrow and do something dramatic. And it's like, no, if you just change a little bit, right? Like if a plane took off and they were supposed to be heading this way and they were 1 degree off, it don't seem like much, but over a period of time, that 1 degree, as it starts to expand, it can be like tens of thousands of miles, right? It's the difference of you in New York or Chicago, right? Like 1 degree over a period of time. So it's not about us changing everything overnight. It's incremental change, right? So sometimes shifting your habits just a little bit and then sharing it with those that are, you know, connected to you could be the difference in success or failure. So
to that point, because I do want you to have the last word.
Oh, no, that is the last word.
Yeah,
for me.
from what I read, the Montgomery boycott,
Mhm.
where they boycotted the buses, was only done by a small percentage of Black people.
Mm.
It wasn't all of us. So this is normal, that we don't always all collectively do the right thing, but it was significant enough for them to shift what they were doing, and letting Black people sit anywhere on the bus that they wanted. It moved the needle. It got what we wanted. And so it doesn't have to be everybody. You're not going to save everybody. But if we are collectively doing this and being intentional about it, the Target is watching their stock fall in the
Tesla
traffic.
too.
Oh, Tesla. That's
Tesla out here, man. Right. That's all another video. We'll get into that. But 71%. That's all I'm gonna say. 71%. But right, keep doing what you're doing. Y'all, listen, man. For those that are still hanging tough with us, man, it's a nice little amount too. Appreciate you guys. And we've got some exciting stuff that's coming. I know I say that all the time, but it really, really is. So I'll just throw this out here. Just know, in the upcoming months, there is a strong possibility that how I'm showing you all clips of the Tequila Tales, we're going to start streaming it live, right, from the very location that we're now inhabiting. So we're very excited about that. If you all are not following us on social media, I know you might be watching this through blackdoctor.org. You probably want to shoot over to the Tequila Tales and also follow us there. And go to our website, thetequilatales.com, and sign up for our inner circle, right? Because if we come to your city, or just in general, you just want to be in the know. That's all I got to say. Anything else you wanna end on?
If you join the inner circle, you will not get text messages about Phoenix if you live in North Carolina. So just keep in mind, important. It will be custom to your area.
Right. Well, with that being said, you guys, man, appreciate y'all, and until the next time.